So I recently saw the 80s vampire classic The Lost Boys in the cinema for its 35th anniversary, and I thought it was time to talk about this movie. It's October, you should all be busting it out. It's a great vampire movie, one of the best. Let's talk about it.
Drink some of this, Michael. Be one of us.
If you love horror and other movie geek content, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what you think of this 80s vampire classic in the comments. I kind of feel like The Lost Boys really did create a genre, and it's easy to forget that Joel Schumacher made such an impact with this film. Joel Schumacher, the setting, the style of this film, the imagery, he creates a very 80s music video type world. It's just very exciting. The film feels very spontaneous, very young, very fresh, very hip. You're immediately transported to this town of Santa Carla with these two young brothers who are moving there with their mother, Michael played by Jason Patric and Sam played by the late Corey Haim. And they just go to this crazy seaside town which just looks awesome off the bat. The best seafront ever, the best fair ever, awesome comic book store, motorcycles everywhere, awesome 80s clothes. It's just literally, you just get that 80s fun as soon as they arrive, and it runs throughout the movie. But Sam and Michael start to realise things aren't all as they seem, as Santa Carla is in fact crawling with vampires. They meet the Frog Brothers, Edgar and Alan played by Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander. And this movie is full of great youngsters banter. You know, the amount of talent in this movie, the amount of young talent is phenomenal. Two Corys, of course, were very popular at the time. Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, they're just fantastic. You know, you compare them to a lot of young actors today, it's just a different caliber of personality and of charisma. Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander's approach to the Frog Brothers is just genius. You know, they're so serious, they try and act so tough, but really they're just kids. But you know, they know what's going on in Santa Carla, and there's just so many little lines where these characters who are just little kids are trying to sound like Sylvester Stallone. It's just genius.
We're dedicated to a higher purpose. We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way.
It's just, there's such a fun, playful energy to things, despite this being a serious horror film. It is a serious horror film. You know, it is scary, but it is that beginning of those 80s teen horrors where it's just fun as hell, but the next scene it's terrifying as hell. But it's a great blend, I think. I feel like teen horror was a great thing, how it kind of captured the fun of being a teenager along with those kind of fears you have as a teenager, where you're always scared of vampires and all these evil things, werewolves, etc. And it mixes those two worlds, so it's kind of fun, but it's also nightmarish. Vampires are of course super cool. They're led by Kiefer Sutherland, for God's sake. Kiefer Sutherland is electric in this role. You know, you're glued to the screen whenever he talks. Just the wardrobe of all the vampires in this just looks so cool. Running around on motorcycles. The kind of this is one of the first films that had vampires being these renegade young teens who were kind of the rebels of the neighborhoods, and you don't know what's going on with them. When we see the vampires in their true form, it looks scary, it looks creepy. The film never, wimps out on the scares. It's a hilarious film, but when it has scares, it looks terrifying, these vampires in their true form. That moment where they reveal themselves to Michael and he realises the true horror of what he's been hanging out with. The way Joel Schumacher shoots that fast moving and then just close up on those faces and that glimmer in their eyes and that the fangs and just the terrifying happiness in what they're doing with their evil. Schumacher gives us rabid and animalistic vampires in this. This is not Twilight, guys. If you're watching it today and you maybe are a fan of Twilight, don't expect that. These are bloodthirsty, evil creatures. The 80s had many movies like this, which was kids on their own with no adults around facing down these terrifying things. And what I love is that taps into what you're like as a kid. You sort of like being scared. You like the idea of taking on these monsters. But when it actually comes to it, you're actually scared. Like the Frog Brothers put up this front of being tough, etc. And it's hilarious how macho they are. But when they come up against vampires, they're terrified and they run away. It's like that kid thing of presenting yourself as being braver than you are. It's like actually come up against them if regular neighbourhood kids came up against forces of evil.
Just so you know, if you try to stop us or vamp out in any way, then I'll stake you without even thinking twice about it.
Chill out, Edgar.
Yeah, come on.
There are so many memorable lines and quotes in this. This is an absolute gem of a script. It's one of the most quotable 80s movies. You know, every scene has another genius line, whether it's a quirky line, or whether it's a serious, meaningful line, whether it's a truly hilarious line. It really is a wonderful script because it's such a great mixture of horror and comedy. And we get jokes made about the horror that goes on, and we get horror about the comedy, and we get the comedy and horror overlapping, and some scenes you don't know whether to laugh or be scared. Like it, but it works so well.
You're creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
That final scene at the house, you know, where blood fills the whole house and there's red everywhere. It's a gigantic combination full of spectacular practical effects. It really does feel like an epic combination of what you've seen, and it really feels earned. It really is cool to see Michael square off against David in this fight in this red room, this blood red room. So much mood to it, so well shot by Schumacher. And also to see Sam and the Frog Brothers battling vampires with water guns with holy water in, or a bath full of holy water and garlic. In that underdog way, these regular kids just fighting vampires any way they can. It's just so cool and so fun. There's also an adorable dog in this called Nanook, who helps out fighting vampires. It's cute as hell. There was actually going to be a sequel to The Lost Boys around the time of The Lost Boys, not years later, called The Lost Girls, where they were going to have some of the top girl actresses of the time and have them be in this exact film. I actually like the idea of that, especially, you know, having it in the 80s or the 90s, more than what we got with Lost Boys 2 and 3. Lost Boys 2 is a load of old arse. It was a decades later sequel. The only good thing about it is that Corey Feldman was in it, but it's really lame and it doesn't capture any of the style or the swagger or anything. Lost Boys 3 was a bit better, but it just meh, you know. You could never capture the lightning in a bottle of Lost Boys. It really is one of those films where everything about it is so colourful and so vibrant and so full of life, and every actor was nailing it and every performance was charismatic and the script was great. Everything comes together to create this unforgettable movie. You should really watch The Lost Boys this October. It really is one of the greatest vampire movies. It must be the greatest 80s teen horror movie, surely. I mean, there's other great ones like Fright Night and Near Dark, but Lost Boys is in a league of its own. What do you guys think of The Lost Boys? What is your favourite 80s teen horror? What are you watching this October? Please watch another horror video on the screen now, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and you're a movie geek just like me. I will see you guys in the next video.